Hey guys, I just wanted to make a screencast about this so people could go back, see what they did wrong, and then ask more questions if they want. And because I could write the answers, but I think if you hear me talking about them, it'll make it a lot more valuable. So, like I said, and I will keep saying, the hard thing is that you don't know which kind to do. But what you do know is to always simplify, each side as much as you can first. So what we're gonna do over here is FOIL each side. So our first is x squared, outer is minus 2x, inner is plus 5x, last is minus 10. And on the other side, first is also x squared, first outer is plus 4x, inner is plus 2x, last is plus 8. All right, something that I recommend, and we didn't talk about, but in retrospect, I should have talked about more, is anytime you see that you have the same thing on each side, so I have x squared and I have x squared, get rid of it. And just rewrite. And I'm gonna also, in this same step, combine these like terms. So this becomes 3x minus 10 equals 6x plus 8. This is a thing people definitely know how to do now. Plus 10 gets me 3x equals 6x plus 18. Minus 6x minus 6x negative 3x equals 18, and lastly divide by negative 3 will get me x equals negative 6. So the key to this was realizing that after we FOILed, we had 1 x squared on each side. So even though there was an x squared, we weren't going to solve it with ZPP or factoring because we can cross out the x squared from each side. All right, in this second problem, I see that I don't have anything that's the same, but I do have an x squared. And I'm not going to be able to get rid of the x squared like I was in number 1 because I have a 3x squared and a 2x squared on the other side. So I'm going to move everything in one step over to the left, which would involve subtracting 2x squared, subtracting 8x, and adding 7. Now, for this sort of thing, you really do need to know how to do all of this. If you make a careless error, the factoring isn't going to work. I saw a lot of people not knowing how to do 3x squared minus 2x squared. That is 1x squared. And if you mess up, you make a careless error with positives or negatives, like a lot of people did something wrong with 5x minus 8x. That is negative 3x. Negative 35 plus 7 is minus 28. And the right side now is 0. This is screaming to be factored. Factors of the last that add up to the middle. So x minus 7, x plus 4. When I get here, I now split this into two equations. X minus 7 equals 0, x plus 4 equals 0. The way that I solve each of those is just one step. Plus 7 minus 4 gets me x equals 7 and x equals negative 4. These do not need a plus minus. People wrote the plus and minus here because they think whenever you have something with a squared, you need plus minus. But that is not correct. We'll talk about that in the next couple problems. All right. Over here, again, there's a lot of stuff going on, but before we can, make any judgments or determinations, we need to simplify each side. Over here, that's distributing. So many people did not know 2x times 4x. That is 8x squared. 2x minus 7 is minus 14x. Equals, let's FOIL over here. X squared minus 8x minus 6x plus 48, and then my plus 15 is still there. Let's combine like terms over here. There's a lot to do. 8x squared minus 14x equals x squared minus 14x plus 63. Again, I have a minus 14x and a minus 14x, so I'm going to get rid of that. And now I have 8x squared equals x squared plus 63. One of the tricks we talked about, one of the things you can notice is, when you have an x squared and no x, which is exactly what's happening in this problem, we want to solve by square rooting each side eventually. So what that requires us to do is subtract x squared from each side and get 7x squared equals 63. Now I'm going to divide each side by 7, which will give me x squared equals 9. And then, if I take the square root of each side, I'm going to get x equals plus minus 3. This needs a plus or minus. You put a plus or minus on the side that has only numbers when you square root both sides. That is the only time you do it, but you always have to do it then. In this next problem, I see immediately there's a negative 7 I can get rid of. Let's do that and rewrite. 3x squared plus 11x equals x squared plus x. So I have an x squared and I have an x, and I'm not going to be able to get rid of any of them. So I'm going to move everything to the left so I can do ZPP. That is different than how I did number 3. Because in number 3, my x's went away, so that changed and made me not want to use ZPP. But here, since only my numbers went away, I still need to use ZPP. I'll now get 2x squared, that should have been just minus x. 2x squared plus 10x equals 0. Whenever you have this, it needs to be factored. When you have an x squared and an x on one side and a 0 on the other side. A lot of people say this can't be factored. But remember, factoring is not just this top kind in number 2. It's also undistributing. I can take a 2x out of both of these and then be left with x plus 5, and I still have equals 0. Now I also make two equations. 2x equals 0 and x plus 5 equals 0. I'm going to solve those in one step again. Divide by 2 over here, minus 5 over here. X equals 0 or x equals negative 5. Alright, last one. This is the one with a very distinct look. Whenever you have something in parentheses being squared, your first thing you're going to do is get that by itself. First I have to add 5 to each side, which will get me 2x minus 9 squared equals 75. Now I'm going to divide by 3 and get 2x minus 9 squared equals 25. Now I square root both sides. When I square root the left, it cancels out the squared. So I get 2x minus 9. Square rooting 25 gives me plus or minus 5. A lot of you guys either just wrote 5 and then solved, or wrote 5 and then solved, and then put the plus or minus in at the end. But the plus or minus always comes after this step of square rooting both sides. I'm going to split this into two equations now. My top one would be 2x minus 9 equals positive 5. And then over here, I'm going to get 2x minus 9 equals negative 5. These we know how to solve. I'm going to add 9. Up top, that'll get me 2x equals 14, and down here 2x equals 4, and then divide by 2 for both of them, and then the top one I get x equals 7, and the bottom one I get x equals 2. Please watch this. If you were confused about this quiz, there's going to be more practice for this stuff in the review. Remember, the hardest thing is to know how to do which kind. Always simplify each side first. Then cross out things that are the same on both sides if you can. Then decide which is the proper way to solve it based on what is left. Everybody, you are going to do great on final. Just study hard, take advantage of a review time, ask questions, work together. I know you're all going to do great.